This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. I'm very excited to be speaking with David Stassen about Running Point. How are you, David?
Good. How are you?
Good. I heard before I started watching the show that it would be great to talk to you because you're such a big basketball fan and you'd love to speak about that. And I was a little less excited because I am not a basketball fan. And I was like, well, I'm excited for this show, but are we going to have to talk about basketball? And I am pleasantly surprised to say that I think this show should work for both people who really enjoy sports and people who don't care about sports at all.
That is exactly what I want to hear. It's kind of what we hope for. We tried to thread the needle of how much basketball is the right amount of basketball for this show. And I feel like we landed on like 80-20, maybe 85-15, basketball or non-basketball basketball, but that's nice to hear. Thank you.
And because I know nothing, I can assume the Los Angeles Waves are not a real team, but I'm curious if they are inspired by real stories, etc.
Yeah, the whole idea was brought to us by Jeannie Buss, who owns the Lakers, and her second in command there, Linda Rambis, who's been her best friend for 40 plus years and is very high up at the Laker organization. And they basically said to Mindy a few years ago, we have a very, very funny life. We are two women running a professional basketball team, and the things we have to deal with are quite crazy. And so yeah, so it's inspired by Jeannie and her upbringing, and it's about women in charge at a men's pro basketball team. And we definitely were so lucky to get access through Jeannie and Linda and Jordan Rambis to the Lakers practice facility, and they sat down with us and gave us stories. And that's all inspiration, but the show is 100% fictional. And no, you're right. There are no Los Angeles Waves. We made up the team.
Well, it will probably amuse you that I actually know who Jeannie Buss is only because I have watched the HBO series.
Oh, that's
So, so not from any real life, but
yeah.
from my own TV consumption.
So had
So
you heard of Magic Johnson before Winning Time?
yes, that I feel like
Okay.
I've lived in the world a little bit. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not as much as you. I can't tell you much other than, something to do with basketball. So
Yeah.
happy to be getting some education through this. And I was familiar with your work before from History of the World Part Two. And I know Ike is also involved behind the scenes and Jay Ellis is in the cast. Are
Yeah.
there other common threads I'm missing between these two shows?
I'm trying to think who else well, Drew Tarver. We had Drew in a couple sketches in History of the World. He played a seasick soldier in a D-Day sketch, and he was Hitler on ice. So we almost tanked his career by putting him in a Hitler outfit. But yeah, so Drew was someone we'd worked with on History of the World. Jay, Lisa Gilroy, who was in the second episode of Running Point. She played Hitler's girlfriend, Ava Braun, in History of the World, and I think and she was also one of the Romanov daughters in the Russian Revolution sketch. So yeah, there's a little bit of crossover. I might be missing someone else too.
How hard was it to cast this show and find the right people for these roles?
Um, well, we got so lucky with casting. It was not that hard. We always pictured Jay Ellis. We always pictured Max Greenfield. Um, Kate Hudson was the dream of dream idea for the role. Um, and then when people like Chet Hanks and Fabrizio Guido, who played Jackie, audition, and they're just their tapes are so good. Um, Obviously, there's a lot of roles. It's a lot of work. You have to, you want to find basketball players who no one's ever seen before, so they feel real, but also they're funny, but also they look like basketball players. So it took a lot of work. It's a huge process, but we got so lucky with everyone.
Reminds me a little bit of Ted Lasso. I know that talking to Brendan Hunt, he's like, I'm the only one who actually cares about soccer. And so I'm like, this has to work the script. And I'm like, nobody cares. You're the only one who's into this. So are a lot of the actors and the players as into basketball as you would say you are?
No one is as into basketball as I am, besides probably Joe Mandy, one of our producers, who's maybe the celebrity Minnesota Timberwolves fan. And Ike is a huge basketball fan, and Mindy grew up loving basketball. She grew up in Boston. Her parents, or her dad, as an immigrant, really connected with America through the '80s Celtics and Larry Bird and that whole team. So basketball is important to all of us. And then there was a Dane DeLegro who plays Bodrog on the team. He played professional basketball. He's about 6'8", so he knows his stuff. But yeah, to Brendan's point, and Brendan, I love Brendan. He's an old friend. But I wanted the basketball, like the language around it and the play itself, to be to feel like my friends who like basketball like me would say it passed the sniff test.
Would you say that filming those scenes takes up, the whatever 15% of the time, or is it a lot more elaborate just to get a
Mm.
few little shots?
Yeah, it's a good question. It ends up being, we shot, I think, for about 12 weeks total, and the last week was just basketball. So it's a commitment. It's probably 15% of the about 15%, maybe a little less, because when you're shooting the basketball stuff in the arena, you're also shooting conversations on the sidelines and walkouts. So you're not shooting just basketball plays the whole 5 days. But it takes a village, because you also have to have your basketball coordinator working with the actors in their free time to do all the plays, and they're meeting at a separate gym, and then I'm getting sent video of it and approving what the play will look like. So then when we are rolling, the actors have done the play over and over already. And then we were lucky to use, I don't know, triple the amount of cameras for the basketball scenes, so that you don't have to reset and get the same play too many times. You have it covered from so many different looks.
Been trying to watch like one episode per night to space out a little, so I have not yet finished the seasons, know how
Oh,
it ends. Is there more mapped out? Do you have, like, in your ideal world, there'd be X number of seasons of this show, or you're waiting for some news before you start thinking that far ahead?
yeah, in my manifesting mind, I'm thinking of multiple big season arcs and ways that each season could end in a really exciting way that makes you want to have another season. Um, and I think Mindy and Ike have done the same, but we're waiting for the official word before we really dig in. But we have a lot of, I think, big picture ideas to keep this story going forever. There's so many ways, with all the siblings who are so good and all the power dynamics. I do feel like the show could go and go.
Awesome. Well, I hope that basketball enthusiasts like yourself and those who don't care at all like myself will enjoy this equally. I wish you plenty of luck with this show and the future of it.
Thank you, Abe.